Alright, everybody, welcome back to another video. Me and my homie, in IRL homie, so I can't shout out some internet homies, unfortunately, but we just talked about Alex at heavyweight because it's right around Alex Ankalaev recording wise. One of my guys in my comments, I just talk about current events, so I'm going to do it for this video, but we're talking about Alex Pereira at heavyweight, looking at these contenders, looking at champions, looking at this. So I was like, you know what, video idea, let's run it. Ranking each champion's success up a weight class. So I'll further explain it, just a better explanation of the video. I'm going to look at each weight class. So, for example, let's say Merab is, by example, never mind, Pantoja is the 125 champion, right? I'm going to look at Pantoja's chances against Merab, like Jan, Umar, O'Malley, the contenders up there. And it'll be the top six, give me my thoughts on how they do. Each of this is just a thought experiment, each little iteration, each little fight. So feel free to disagree with me and discuss in the comment section. Maybe I didn't think each situation well thought out. Maybe there's some variables I never considered. I tried to give quicker, concise thoughts for the sake of this video and not go on 10-minute tangents about each individual matchup. You know what I mean? Anyways, starting off number one, I think Dricus du Plessis at light heavyweight. In short, I think given the weak state of the division at light heavyweight, his size at middleweight, which is 214 pounds, is a big middleweight, and unique but successful style, this is a very easy move up with arguably no threats, and I'll get into why I say arguably. Pulling my notes up here. So here's my thing. I think DDP, if he built up to 205, would probably get around Periera's size. Periera's, 233, DDP's 214. I think DDP could get up to a 228, 229, potentially. He could gain another 15 pounds, which seems like a lot, but he could do it. I feel like he already cuts a ton of weight making it there. I think on the feet, Periera does have the advantage against DDP, but I feel like DDP would just go straight for the takedown and just smother Periera, take him down, impose his will. Again, I put in my notes that Periera has the puncher's chance just because his IQ and his striking is so good. But I think also because DDP does eat a lot of shots and no chin is safe from Alex Pereira. But I really just think DDP wouldn't mess around. He would just go straight to it like round one sub. I'm not saying he probably could do that, but I'm saying he's going to go straight for it. I don't think he would mess around with trying to stand and bang with Pereira. Even him and all of his cockiness I think he knows that Pereira would just destroy him on the feet. Now, Ankalaev, I think DDP is just leagues above Ankalaev in just every regard. My prediction is like a dominant 4-1 decision, when you can argue in the comment section about that one, but I've already done my piece on Ankalaev. My opinion, you can find that in the Overrated Fighters video. I think Yuri will give DDP some struggle because it's goofy style on goofy style. They're hard to read. They have that very explosive, non-feet planted power both of them do. But I think DDP is just a more well-rounded fighter, and it would kind of go similar to the tune of the Izzy fight, where he's losing the striking exchanges, and then randomly, with some cartoonish crap, gets him down, gets in an arm triangle. But I don't know if he would finish it. I feel like Yuri has good submission escapes. I think it would end probably a 3-2 win, a very close fight. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's a threat, per se. I think Jan is just too old, man. He would just get beat up, just 4-1 decision. I know Jan's great and all, and Jan would probably do some damage to the leg kicks. Jan would put up a fight, but he's just too old and he gasses and all that. Jamal's just KO. Guy's chin's gone. Way too many flaws in his game. DDP's just ironically more technically sound, but Rocket sucks. Another easy win for Dricus. I think honestly a KO, given Rocket's a little bit chinny, but that's just how it is. Olberg is another tough-ish matchup. I really think the speed and the size of Olberg against DDP's goofiness would pose some trouble, but I really think DDP's a more well-rounded guy. I think he could get it done. I think he could also eat the shots of Olberg, and Olberg does have that one habit where he drops his hands or drops his left hand and leaves him wide open for a hook. So I really feel like DDP could find something like an overhand, some crazy DDP-esque strike. You know how it goes. And I think he'd get a 3-2 decision dub, maybe even a knockout. I don't know. I feel like Olberg's chin is pretty decent. Islam Makhachev. This one I feel like is also really easy. I think he just runs through division, in my opinion. I think he has the tool set to just stun Belal, just dominate him. I mean, stopping the takedowns, being the guy that's stopping the takedowns and not giving the takedowns might be a little awkward. But I really think he just beats Ball like a freaking bobblehead. You punch a bobblehead, it bounces back and forth. Everything he's going to do it to Belal, bro. I don't see anything else. And then Leon also, given that he couldn't stop Belal's grappling approach, we'll call it that way, that Dar's money line is looking real nice for Islam. I would say a round 2, round 3 submission. I think Islam would honestly just drag Shavkat into super deep waters and get in a tight submission, just like the vegan cuck. But I think, unlike the vegan cuck, he'll actually lock in, get that submission, tighten it up. Night, Shavkat. Now, I will say, though, I think Shavkat's a massive human being, and that's going to be a real disadvantage for Islam, because given he's not the best defensive boxer. But I still think that Shafkat kind of, I don't think it's a cardio issue, but I think he started to get a little gassed there, and Ian Gary started to get a little bit on him towards the fight goes on. And Islam never gasses. His cardio is insane. Well, kind of against Dustin, that's staff. Islam's got good cardio. He can deliver that in that regard. I think Shavkat's size on the feet will be able to get him 2, maybe even a controversial 3 rounds, but I just think Islam will submit him in the later rounds, to be honest, like 4 or 5. You can debate in the comments which one's which. Jack Della Maddalena is the only real threat, given I've already mentioned this. That Jack Della's boxing is on another level, and Islam just has really bad boxing defense. He overcommits on things. He's always off balance, so he can never counter. But JDM has really weird, inconsistent takedown defense. People praise his takedown defense, but also cite as a reason why Belal will beat him. So I think that that's like a really tough fight to pick. And in that regard, I would say it's like 60-40, maybe even 50-50. And that's when I consider it like a threat category, where it's like you could legitimately lose one. This isn't like a 70-30 type situation. You know what I mean? These are the notes. I do think Islam is his grappling is extremely high level. He can mix in the trips, the throws, and ankle picks and other things to get around the takedown defense. I think he can find a way and get around 3 submission. But honestly, I really think he'll be down 2-0. I really think Della's going to stunt him on the feet. Islam is going to take it because he's got some grit, and then eventually he'll find a way to get Jack Della down and just submit him. I don't think Brady has it. Just that plain and simple. There's no fancy analysis. I don't think Sean Brady is a guy that can really beat Islam Makhachev. Now, no offense to Sean Brady. Not everybody can beat like the consensus pound for pound best fighter in the world. We're not saying you're a bad fighter, but I just don't think this is the guy that's going to dethrone Islam's crazy win streak and would be, I think, double champ status, right? I think Buckley has the power, but I think him just being just a smaller dude, just like Islam, would really play into a factor. I think Islam would be able to just kind of wear him down as it goes. I think a 3-2 decision with a 10-8 round probably in the 5th because Buckley kind of slows down a little bit as the rounds get deeper. And I know Colby Covington is your basis for that argument, but still evidence to consider. I don't know. I feel like Buckley still could get him something with the power and the boxing, but I don't know. I just think Islam is just more well-rounded and better than Buckley. I would say like a 3-2. I would be a very weird 3-2. It would be super close, and then all of a sudden Buckley would gas and Islam would get a 10-8, and that would be the end of the fight, basically, in my opinion. Now, Pantoja is super interesting. I think he could out-scramble Merab's death by 50 takedown attempts approach, but I don't know if he has the cardio to out-Merab, if you know what I mean. The Merab classic where it's like, I'm just going to cardio you 3-2. That's like his thing. I think Pantoja would be able to have a heavy grappling approach against O'Malley, although I do think O'Malley's distance management and range would just be a really tough factor for Pantoja. But if Merab can break in that, I think Pantoja could just as easily do it. I also think Pantoja has a better chin, which could also play a factor into it. I really think it would be a very similar fight to the Merab fight, just a little bit more like scrambly clench stuff, less about the just knees to the thigh and kissing your back, I think Jan is a really tough one for Pantoja. He's the other threat. Jan is just super technical and smart. Plus, I know common opponent isn't always the greatest metric, but Chael says it is. We're going to go by Chael's assessment here. Jan just molested Figgy. There's no other way to put it. Whereas Pantoja did lose to Figgy. I think Jan could 4-1, 3-2, kind of like that classic domination performance from Jan, because he always gives up round 1 for reads. I just don't think Umar is the cardio to beat Pantoja. I think Pantoja will be able to lock in the sub in the 4th, honestly. Sandhagen would be the same thing. I just don't think Sandhagen has the scrambling and, I guess, cardio. I just don't think Sandhagen has it, man. I really don't. Now, he's getting better grappling-wise, but I think Pantoja is just a really phenomenal grappler to be able to lock in a nice submission. Now, Figgy Pantoja 2 is super interesting. I think Pantoja's grown a ton from that fight and beats him like a 3-2, but it's still kind of close on paper. I think Figgy's caliber and power would be a definite factor for Pantoja to deal with. And then I think Song versus Pantoja wouldn't even be a competitive fight. I think another round 2 submission. You can argue with me on that one, but I don't know. And I think for Pantoja, with 2 of your inner circle, top 7 of all time consensus. I know I had Jan 5 and that was controversial, but your inner circle, tier 2, tier 1 bantamweight guys are your only threats. That's not really bad. You know what I mean? Now, Topuria is interesting. I don't really need to explain Topuria's skill set, so I'm just going to kind of rapid fire here. I think Cooker goes down in 1 with a KO. I just think he's a little chinny. Size could be a factor, but still, look what he did to Jai Herbert. in the size regard. Holloway already happened. I think it goes on the same way. Maybe he submits him for an alternative clip for the editors, but I think Dustin gets chinned in the third, bro. I think Dustin will be able to tough it out and survive a little more. I think his survivability and dog mentality would take over, but it's just it reaches a certain point where you're 35 years old and Tabor is just knocking everyone out. I love Dustin, but I just don't think that would go down well for Dustin. Oliveira is an interesting one. I think the grappling is obviously there, but I think he's just too chinny, plain and simple, to be around 2 KO. For Taporia, I think Oliveira would do a very wrestling having a heavy approach round one. Taporia would survive it and then just clip him, done. Armin's my other threat because I think he would get a super wrestling heavy approach with Taporia and he'd be able to slow down the attacks and the power of Taporia on the feet. He'd be able to delay the inevitable, perhaps. Honestly, I could see either being like Taporia, like round 3 knockout, or Armin barely squeaking by with a 3-2. He's also a big lightweight. We have to consider that as a factor on the chin wise. But then again, see, I don't know if Taporia has insane power or he just hits people clean on the chin and has slightly above average power. That's the debate you can have in the comment section. Or maybe he has both insane power and he's very technical, hits you clean on the chin. Who knows? Because Taporia, I think with the Bryce Mitchell fight, where Taporia just didn't seem to have it. Maybe he was a little bit tired, and Bryce was able to grapple with him and do some things when he's not a caliber grappler. Taporia at least is supposed to be. Taporia is supposed to be this insanely high-level grappler, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, all that. Now, Islam is the other threat, and I think it's super interesting because remember Taporia's old weakness? He blocked it in it's a forgotten exchange, but I remember because I was looking for it. Holloway to throw a head kick immediately. Taporia did block it, but that's an old weakness of his. And Islam is very gritty, very high IQ. He can get you in a spot where your bad habits and your weaknesses show. I really think Islam via head kick might honestly be the play. I know that sounds a little weird, but just bear with me here because Jai Herbert almost knocked him out. He blocked it against Holloway, but it was close. It's always been one of his weaknesses is that head kick. I'm trying to think. Taporia stance. Yeah, it'd be right ear. You kind of get it just above the right ear. Taporia tries to cover up, and you hit him. I really think Islam could do it. I know it's a little weird. Now, if that weakness is long past Taporia, I think Islam's distance management, able to stay on the outside, is pretty good. He's able to kind of when he's on and he's in a good striking rhythm, he can stay on the outside, get some things done. I think he'd be able to use his wrestling more of oh crap, I'm getting backed up, I need to do something here. And that type of unexpected wrestling did catch Taporia originally in that Mitchell fight. I really think the fight would be super close if Islam isn't able to just head kick his lights out, I think Taporia could be able to get his boxing off given Islam's not so good boxing defense and play with Islam. But I just don't think you can do that where you play with Islam the way he's played with these other all-time greats. He plays with guys. He makes them fight his fight. He circles them around. He does things, and they don't know what's happening. I just think, honestly, I think they're well matched in terms of talent and skill and caliber and all that. I just think Islam has more grit and has more heart. And he'd be able to get that 3-2. You can call it a stupid metric, but I think the people that understand what I'm saying really understand what I'm saying here. You know what I mean? It's a very close fight. I just don't know. I think the mistake is people making it like it's going to be a one-sided domination for either side. That's when you're just straight out, flat out wrong. I think it's going to be a very close fight for both sides. Now, people are probably mad at Alex Pereira being number 5, but I'll explain. I think this is a super interesting one where I'm having a tough time. I think Alex, to be fair, loses to Jones, but let's say Jones is gone and Aspinall is there. Aspinall's probably going to get him, but let's say something happens with Aspinall. The knee blows out again. They vacate the belt because he's a man of honor. What happens there? Anyways, getting back to the Jones thing, I know I'm just kind of thinking diagonally there, but Jones wrestling is just super high level, and as high level as Alex is, the strikings I put in my notes, they're both super high level in their regards, and Jones isn't an idiot. Maybe if Jones was 28 still, he'd flirt with it on the feet, but Jones is the same age, he doesn't really react well to getting hit by guys that have, speed and solid power, although Pereira isn't really the fastest. But you know what I mean, though? I think Jones is just slow and old now. I could see a ground and pound TKO or a submission from Jones in round two, either of them. I think now I say round two, but I could honestly see round one better. I just feel like Jones in that Stipe fight was having trouble getting Stipe in a good position to unload those shots. And I think Alex isn't as chinny as we make him out to be, especially when he's at heavyweight. He wouldn't be dehydrated. You know what I mean? Now, Aspinall has already said he's going to rugby tackle him, take the back, lock in the rear naked choke in round one. So that's my prediction. Now, Volkov is interesting. It's winnable, but that's just because he doesn't really shoot in a lot from my experience watching Volkov's fights. He likes to kind of stay on the outside and test the waters because he's 6'7", and people 6'7", 6'7" heads, but people were talking about Ankalaev straights with Periera, and I think those are the wrong straights. I really think the straights of a 6'7" dude could be tricky for Pereira because Pereira is always way bigger than his opponents. But now he's the guy who's smaller. And not just the weight, also the size. I don't know. Now, I think, honestly, hear me out. Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort, KO round three, like front kick for Alex Pereira. Now let's break it down here. Let's put on our imagination, our thinking caps here. If you need to take some psychedelics, that's your thing. If you need to get a little wacky weedus, wouldn't recommend it, but the Lord gave us free will. But so what Alex likes to set with the body jab to the body, jab to the body. He likes to set things up with it. It's kind of his like starting point. I like to call it for a lot of people. It's like a starting point. It's your starter move. Like if it's like a turn-based combat system, this is your turn one move. You know what I mean? And he doesn't want to get too close in there because Volkov has those judo. He has that clinch background. He can do. He's got very solid judo game. That was his background. And Alex doesn't have that illustrious grappling background. Alex likes to kind of stand the outside, with the body jabs, with the thing. I think he's gonna start doing with the teep to the body and then these kind of wide hooks with not as much power. And he's gonna feint that straight out. He's gonna bait parries from Volkov. So he shifts his head, he's shifting his head, which opens up the hooks. And then Volkov's gonna think, wait, I'm shifting my head a ton to the outside. Those hooks are opened up. He's gonna hook me. He's gonna think all about defense to the side of the head. Covers. You might see him feint that. You might see him kind of feint a hook, which is a little weird of a strike. But Alex does weird things like that, and Volkov covers up that side of his head. You know what I mean? That signature cover. I could really see Alex just playing with him in that like defense because Volkov is very sound defensively. From again my tape on Volkov. Now he's gonna start thinking about that, right? Defense to the side of my head, and all of a sudden, bam, front kick to the chin, night night. Picture it, just imagination crosses over. Now Pavlovich is a weird one. I don't know. His wrestling is supposed to be good, but it's really not. I think he's just a bit too chinny, and when you land on him, and just Alex has the power to get it done. I think essentially he's just gonna play with him for the first two rounds on the outside, jab to the body, similar stuff, and then wait till he gasses round three and just unload the hooks, kind of like what he did to Khalil. Blade's very simple. He's too chinny, pretty easy win for Per. Even if Blade shoots in immediately, he can just land the knee. Too chinny. Almeida is another debatable one because I feel like Almeida does get beat by a stronger high level comp, and they are friends and may hold back a little bit. Pereira will. But I think he might just have the ability to ragdoll Pereira for a sub. I know it's a little weird. His grappling's pretty solid. I don't know. They're similar sizes too, so maybe you wouldn't be able to ragdoll him. I think it's a round one finish on either side. It's just debatable. I know it sounds like a crazy hot take, and maybe I'm not really thinking it fully through. Maybe I should have more of a lean 70-30 to Pereira. But I don't know. It's just a weird one, You can argue with it in the comments. You can call me stupid or whatever. Marab at number 6, because featherweight's mostly in a weird spot because they just lost two of their like top contenders, and I didn't put the list because their contenders are gone. Made my own imagination list. I'm not saying Yair beats Pitbull, but just for the sake of the video, let's say Yair beats Pitbull, and let's say Emmett beats Murphy if the timelines are all right, and let's say Aljo just gets the promotion because a slot is filled, right? The champion slot is gone. Let's just say that, right? Let's just put it this way: vacant title, right? Aljo's at 7. They're just gonna hug and kiss each other. Won't even talk about that one. Now, Volk is my interesting one. I really think Volk has the cardio to beat Marab. I also think he's going to be able to stunt on him in the feet and destroy him on the feet, which even if it goes to 3-2, Marab will have the visible damage, which definitely sways the fight a ton. Even if we as fans don't rate it as a metric, it sways the fight a ton for the judges. No debate, no denying that one. Although kind of, I don't know. It comes and goes. It ebbs and flows, you know? I don't know. I feel like Marab would do his little like get beat up in the first three, and Volk would be able to just batter to that right eye, big cut, stunt on him on the feet, land him on the feet, stay on the outside, avoid those takedowns, maybe stuff a couple. I just think the blood would dripping. There'd be a lot of damage from the cut above the right eye. There'd be a lot of swelling from Marab. It just wouldn't look good. You know what I mean? And even if he wins 3-2, they might just flip around for Volk because of the damage. You know what I mean? It's going to be one of those tough and gritty fights, but I really think Volk can get it done 3-2. Call me a Volk Glazer, argue with in the comments, but I really think Volk can get it done. Now, Lopez is an interesting one because he's huge. He's massive. You know what I mean? And Marab's a tiny dude. He's kind of small. I think Lopez can break that Georgian chin in 2 rounds, get a KO, but if he doesn't, he'd probably lose 3-2 to Marab. But I don't know, because I feel like Lopez does have really good jiu-jitsu and really good scrambling. But I just think because of his size, he would gas out quicker, more oxygen, all that crap, yada, yada, yada. It's still definitely a close one, and it's a threat. Now, the other one, I don't like to say Marab's a threat to anything other than little girls, but I think Masavar might. Did I say that? Sorry, Marab, you're not a threat to little girls. Masavar is a threat to little girls, the underage girls. I think he might have the counter wrestling and maybe the cardio, but I think Marab Cycle is just a little bit better, as proved in the Umar fight. I don't know, man. It's a tough one. I feel like styles make fights, and stylistically it would be a close fight, but I just feel like Marab would just get the belt and just start whooping him. I think it would just be like a clear, like classic Marab dominant 3-2, maybe even a 4-1 in this case. Yair gets smothered 5-0 with 2 10-8 rounds in there. Arnold Allen isn't super dynamic, and his IQ is kind of questionable. He probably start trying to brawl Marab and get taken down. Emmett on paper seemed like it would be a tough fight for Marab. The guy got submitted by Yair, so I have Marab 4-1, and then Aljo's just a draw because, like I said, they'd be hugging and kissing each other for 5 rounds. Super gay stuff, you know how it goes. They would quote unquote grapple, but there'd be a lot of back kissing, a lot of hugging, a lot of 50-50, a lot of north south, you know what I mean? But it would be all technical, all for technical reasons there. Also, unrelated, Taporia's brother makes a run at 35. Marab said he'd move to 45, but then if Aljo makes a run at 45, Marab would all he'd be able to do is go back down to 55, retire, or move down to 25, go to 55, or retire, which are not great options for Marab. Belal, I know I'm a constant opinion changer. People can argue with me and say I'm this, and that, but I really feel like Belal has a better option at 55, which is not that good either. I know I said his style was good, but it works for welterweight in the welterweight landscape. Now, I think DDP is just too big for Belal. I think he'd be able to chin him because Belal is all about constant offense. He leaves his hands down. He doesn't really move his head. He leaves things open to get hit. And DDP is that, not feet planted power. Again, ready for another imagination cap sequence. Right? Dricus is down 2-0. Still looks fresh as a daisy, though, because he hasn't been hurt that much by Belal's constant, Canelo boxing of jabs and some hooks to the body here and there, trying to tucker him out because people still think Dricus is bad cardio. Round 3, Belal's doing his thing, pushing forward, failing takedowns, landing jabs. But he forgets his hands are almost together. He forgets to leave, some defense by his head. The chin's up in the air, and bam! An overhand right carrying the racism of apartheid is landed by DDP, and Belal is dead on the floor round 3. Absolute cinema. And Manel could probably get beat given Brandon Allen was harming Bro on the feet. I just think Belal outpaces and outcardios him given he was gassing a little bit, getting a little bit sleepy, EP, a little bit tired against Cannonier. I saw, at least I felt, I don't know, I just don't think Imanov would be that much of a threat to Belal. I also don't think he has great counter wrestling. We haven't really seen that much of it. I think Strickland is a guy that has the cardio to keep up with Belal, and he has phenomenal scrambling. It'll be the hardest fight in MMA history to judge, given that neither of them will have legit damage on each other, and there'll be combined total of 20 truly significant, not just listed as significant strikes between 5 rounds. I mean, I still think Strickland got it 3-2, but just just because of his size. I feel like people to like just bully him with teeps and keep him away and all that. And he does have good power when he sits down on his punches. It's very suffocating, but he never sits down. Hamza, as much as I think he's smoking mirrors, styles make fights, and the styles do clash. And I think the fact that Belal doesn't really submit anyone, Hamza could sneak out a win. But I have a super schizo theory from an Irish friend of mine, that Hamza has really bad counter wrestling, and people just need to shoot on him because he says that that archetype of wrestler usually does. Where they're always shooting first, has bad counter wrestling, trying to hide it, which is very interesting. Now, I think it's an in between. You're either Hamza via round two sub on Belal, or Belal like 4-1, 3-2. Izzy just gets wrestled to death, whatever word you want to say. 5-0 Belal. Whitaker is a huge size advantage. I think he'd be able to shrug off Belal's takedowns pretty comfortably and get a nice round three TKO, given Belal's chin is just, it's there, it's open. I don't know. I don't know. Whitaker. People say Whitaker's a decisionator, but he still's got solid pop in his hands. The 1-2 head kick could also be there if Bilal's not paying attention. I think Kaio is just too quick and powerful. He has that same not non feet planted, very similar to the DDP scenario, except the fight's a little bit closer at 1-1, and there's no racism involved. It's just like a super plot armor left hook to Bilal's jaw, shaking the cranium and all that. I forgot to put an end slide, but we're 26 minutes in here. Kind of a long video. One of my favorite videos if you couldn't tell by my passion. Sorry if I spoke too fast. I don't know why. I also got sleepy midway through the recording. But yeah, this is one of my favorite videos to make, I'll be real. Let me know your guys' scenarios. Call me an idiot. Call me a genius. Call me the next guru, whatever you want to say. And classic outro, but no slide. Thanks for watching, and God bless.